Hello and welcome to Do the Impossible with Jason and Stephen, the podcast that seeks to inspire and amaze you. And now please welcome your hosts, Jason Michaels and Stephen Bargatze.
Welcome to the Do the Impossible podcast with Jason and Stephen. My name is Jason Michaels.
I'm Stephen. I'm always Stephen. I'm going to remain Stephen until this is all over.
Until this is all over. We're excited today. We have a guest that a friend of the show, somebody that both Stephen and I both know, Scott Cantrell, who is a great marketing guy, and he's actually a very fine entertainer himself. He introduced us to today's guest.
I don't like Scott near as much as Jason does, so I'm a little worried about today's guest, to be honest with you, but we're going to go.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's fair.
I'm going to get a call from Scott now.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that I actually talked to today's guest, and so I know that he's okay. He's going to be all right. He's going to be great. But Scott basically said to me, hey, in case you're looking for guests for the podcast, there's this guy that I know, and he's got this very inspiring story of overcoming adversity, which is really what this show is about. This show is about inspiring folks and amazing people, and knowing that we all deal with adversity in life and that we all have to be resilient, and the lessons that we can learn from each other. So I got connected with Karl, and let's not waste any more time because I want to hear what Karl has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to us from Livermore, California, please give it up for Karl Pontau. Hello, sir.
Happy to be here.
All right. I think we're ready. He's got his logo there. He's already better than we are.
Yeah. We've got I don't even know what we have behind us.
We're going to change that.
It's a beautiful frame of something. I can't tell what it is, though. But
yeah. It's a gift from his mother. Sure.
Okay, so it's supposed to be like a piece of molding from architecture, like Roman,
okay,
something like that.
His mother gave her like a Tupperware party. She did something like that, and somehow she got this antique thing. Yeah,
right, antique. Yeah, exactly. So,
okay.
So Karl, I could probably start asking you questions, but I think it's a fair way to start for everybody, including my friend Stephen here, to get to know you a little bit about, what you and I talked about. So would you share with us just kind of part of your story about your life and just kind of give us the background, and then we can go from there.
Sure, yeah. So I have a story that I told Jason last week when we were talking. I think kind of sums up my background and kind of why I think I was recommended for this show, and just kind of the key moment in my life that has been a catalyst for basically the path I am on now and the kind of vision and mission I'm on with my life. Shall I share that story?
That would be perfect.
Awesome. So I've been an artist my entire life. I grew up drawing, painting, sculpting, big Legos kid. And I got my passion for storytelling from my dad. He's a really good storyteller. And I knew I wanted to study animation when I saw the first Toy Story film. I was like, ooh, I gotta do that. That's so cool. And then beginning of 2002, I started to feel like something wasn't quite right with me physically. I've been a competitive swimmer my whole life, so I knew what I was supposed to feel like. And it wasn't like, oh, my shoulder kind of hurts. There's a general blah feeling. But by August, they still hadn't figured out what was wrong with me. And I had lost 50 pounds, and I had sunken cheeks and eyes. I was really pale. Started to get really bad headaches. So my parents took me for an MRI up in Walnut Creek. We were waiting around for another appointment when my pediatrician called and said he's going to drive up from Pleasanton to come talk with us. And we saw him walking up with this big envelope in his hands. You could tell he'd been crying. And he brought us into a little side meeting room. And I remember I was sitting knee to knee with him in this big U-shaped chair with really high armrests, kind of leaning forward like this. And he pulls out the results of the MRI and shows me I have 2 brain tumors. Wow. And it felt like I got
How old were you at this point?
15.
So you're a competitive swimmer, and I'm guessing you're in high school at this point.
Yeah.
This is like prime competitive and like athletics, and just all of a sudden, like your life is turned upside down.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, before then and since then, like I've never had the flu, never broken any major bones, never been stung by a bee. I'm pretty sure I've never been bitten by a mosquito. So my health has been great, and then all of a sudden you just get this sucker punch out of nowhere. You have two brain tumors, and um, I just got so much help from friends and family, and like my high school adjusted my schedule and got me a tutor so I could still graduate on time. And people I barely knew were giving food and gifts and other support. So it really inspired me to want to give back and help as many people as I could because I'd probably be dead if it wasn't for all the help that I got. And so like and that really impacted my studies in school. As I was studying animation, I realized there's a big student digital art design competition I participated in with a big screening at the end of like 1,000 people in this big auditorium. I knew maybe 10 people in the room, but when everyone laughed at the joke in my animation, I realized I could use animation and storytelling to connect with people. And so my my focus in life is now to use storytelling and animation to help as many people as possible. And I've started my own company called Squash and Stretch Productions, and that's really our goal is to use storytelling to help companies that are trying to make people's lives better reach the people that need their help. And I don't think I'd be anywhere on the road on this path I'm on if it hadn't been for what I kind of consider the worst and the best thing that's ever happened to me, which is that diagnosis and just the experience of getting all the help from people and really putting things in perspective as to what's important in life. Um, especially it's really helped to have that experience in my kind of belt when last year when things going and went crazy with COVID. I kind of already knew what it felt like to have my entire world rocked once before, and so I've been in the mode of that I learned how to get through chemo with. I've been using that since last year to help get through the COVID period because it's just that sort of um, news kind of puts everything in different perspective on what's really important in life and how you want to spend your time. And so I think that really prepared me for uh, kind of like overcoming a lot of the challenges of school and life that not things are going to be as hard as going through chemo and radiation when you're 15 years old. So it's makes it a lot easier to deal with business and life and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah, I was going to ask just kind of, first of all, let's go back to that first time you're hearing this.
yeah,
First of all, you have a pretty cool neat doctor that cared enough that he was, you said you saw, but that would have freaked me out if my own doctor has been crying. I go, oh God, this can't be good. But in the beginning, when you first hear this news, are you thinking, well, okay, what do we got to do about it? Or are you thinking this is it?
so oddly, like the first thing I felt besides just like what was I actually felt more relieved than
Because you knew, yeah.
scared because I knew something was wrong with me for 8 months and I just was been feeling like just awful the entire time. Um, and what we realized was one of the tumors had damaged my pituitary gland, so it wasn't making any of the hormones it's supposed to make, which is why I was feeling so blah and why it was such a nebulous symptoms. So actually, the first thing I felt was, oh my gosh, we know what's wrong. We can actually do something about it. But also just like it was a combination of that and just like I felt like I was watching it happen to someone else for 2 weeks because like he basically told us, you're not going to your second appointment today. You're driving from here to Sacramento. You're having a 7-hour brain tumor biopsy surgery like tomorrow morning. Um, go now, and you're already booked for like the ICU beds ready for you. Just go, and we were just like, okay. And I remember like distinctly just because it was such like a shock and surprise that I was not nervous at all for at the prospect of having poke around in my head with a scalpel for 7 hours.
Mhm.
But then like I was stuck in the ICU for 2 weeks after that because um, my sodium and electrolytes levels were fluctuating because the hormones had been off and stuff. So and then I finally got the biopsy results back like one of the last days I was in there. A doctor came in and was like, "Hey, you got the good type of cancer," and I was like, "What?" And I realized like in contrast, I mean, I had two malignant germanomas, and if you had to pick a type of brain tumor to get, you probably pick that type because they're very treatable. Fortunately, it's not like it's not going to come back. It's not even a remission thing. Um, so compared to something like a glioblastoma, which is just like you got 5 months or like 5 years max. There's no like cure for it. I mean, I got really lucky in that sense. Um, and actually, it's and if it's allowed to like adjust to some permanent effects, like I still have to take some hormone supplements because most of my pituitary function came back. There's a part of your brain where your optic nerves cross that puts the two images together, and that's right underneath your pituitary gland. So mine got damaged, so I have prisms in my glasses to fix double vision, and then also during the surgery they put some pressure on the nerve from my nose to my brain, which made me lose my sense of smell. So I've had to adjust to a new normal after that, and it's going to get to um, dealing with life with different sense of like my sense is different and just a different perspective on things. Like that whole teenage invincibility complex goes right out the window when you're told you have brain tumors. I was like a lot more cautious and careful than I think I was before then, and just um, kind of getting and just like the realizing that um, what just because you're in good health one day doesn't mean something could happen, and to really treasure the opportunities and time that I have and people have is I think something a lot of people took for granted. I think a lot of people learned that lesson last year when COVID kind of rocked everyone's world. But I think I'm fortunate that I had that experience like that to really put things in perspective and give me the kind of drive I have now that's helped me um, kind of get a sense of what I want to do in life. And it was just that whole experience of 'cause I mean I got through it, but it wasn't really me that did much of it. I didn't really have a huge decision to make on what sort of treatment plan. They basically said, "Here's the plan how we're going to beat this. You have a 90% chance of beating it, only a 10% chance of it ever coming back. So do these things and you should be fine." So it was like, it's either do the things or waste away and die. So it wasn't like a huge, like agonizing
Yeah.
um, choice with a bunch of risks involved. It was basically, it's going to suck for a few months, but you can get through it, and hopefully on the other end, we'll keep testing you for any chance of things coming back. But just get through the chemo and radiation, and uh, it should be fine. So it was basically just uh, I was had such a great support network, and my doctors were great, and my friends and family were just rallied around me, and so I was able to stay really have a positive, optimistic outlook throughout the whole thing, which is really important. I've learned since that just one's mental attitude can have a huge impact on how well the body heals and stuff like that. So it was um, I just made it the much big of a effort to have it disrupt my life as little as possible. So like my high school was like, "Hey, do you want to take a year off from school, or do you want to tutor?" And I was like, "Can you guys get me a tutor so I can still graduate on time?" And it was like, "Sure, we can make it work." So I had that kind of attitude of let's just keep going. I didn't want the tumor to define who I was. I was Carl, who happens to have a brain tumor, not someone with a brain tumor named Carl.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
love that because that's one of the things that when I know that we've talked about this is that when I talk to people about dealing with different challenges, and everybody has different challenges. I always make a point. I actually usually ask people in like one of like my programs, I'll say, let's make a list of all the elements and the traits that you believe make you who you are. And with the challenge that you're dealing with being one of those things. And so, if they spend 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes writing all this stuff out, what becomes readily apparent and very clear is that, I'm not Tourette syndrome. I have Tourette syndrome, but that's not what makes me who I am. And the same thing, and that's literally what you just said. And I absolutely love that because I think that is, I think that's important to keep into consideration because when dealing with something huge, and obviously you were dealing with a massive, massive thing, it becomes very easy for that to be your entire life. Like that's the only thing you can see, and everything else just takes a back seat. So I love that you said that. I think that's great.
thanks. Yeah, it the attitude of, I mean, everyone should expect or shouldn't be surprised when life something in life knocks you down, and obviously since last year, everyone's been kind of knocked down to some degree, but it's the people that are able to get back up and keep going that are gonna get through it more than the people. If you're only really like a failure, or you're only really in trouble if you don't get back up. And I think that's like kind of what I was taught and told growing up before I got the brain tumor. And it just seemed like the natural, you know, to keep living, it required keep moving forward and get through stuff. And so I uh, that a positive or like optimistic mindset. Yeah, it sucks right now, but it will get better. It can get better if we move towards.
Let me ask you this. As a competitive swimmer, did you find yourself taking lessons, while you were dealing with this? Were there things that you can look back at and say, my coach always talked about this, and this is something I had to learn as a competitive swimmer, and that I was able to use when dealing with this overwhelming situation? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped swimming before I got diagnosed because I was just like, I'd do a flip turn and get nauseous and didn't want to puke in the pool because that'd be kind of rude. Um, but I think the swimming, because I was swimming since I was like 6 years old, and so I'm very, very coachable. I understand the importance of listening to people who know more than I do, and taking their advice and applying it and trying it out. And so that's helped me in business, but also when it comes to like when the doctors say, "Hey, you need to take this medication at this time every day," or like um, do these steps to help you recover, or like avoid these things to keep you from getting nauseous when you're going through chemo. Like I don't brush those off. I make sure I take those to heart, and I apply their expertise, and it really helps because the help get through the experience because like they knew what to do and I had no idea, and so I was able to just gonna rely on them for guidance and coaching, and so I think that is probably the biggest one of the biggest impacts swimming's had on my life is just the learning the importance of listening to coaches and getting help from other people when and that's like also just like the drive to constantly improve because in swimming like I was getting to the point where it was like if I shaved like a tenth of a second off my time, that was amazing, like much faster than I did before. And so um little incremental growth and improvements were kind of what you're looking for. You weren't looking for huge leaps and bounds anymore. I think celebrating little victories like that were always something I learned from swimming. And so I think the that sort of mindset of always wanting to improve and get better and listening to coaches really helped. Was going through like kind of the chemo and radiations because I was feeling a little bit better the next day, or checking like like making sure you didn't get mired down in the overall situation, but celebrating little victories and always looking for ways to improve and get better and stuff is a great mindset for moving through like otherwise overwhelming challenges, kind of breaking things down into little bite-sized chunks that are manageable and celebrating the progress you make instead of just looking up at the mountain and going, "Oh my gosh, I have so much more to go." Kind of focusing on what's in front of you and what you can do to celebrate the steps you're taking. And then if someone says, "Hey, try this way instead of that way," and they are like obviously they're coming down from the top and say, "Hey, I went this way instead of that way," and they got better. I got their fist faster. Then listen to their advice because they've been where you're trying to get to. That sort of stuff is super helpful.
Yeah. I think it helps in any type thing people go through is find people that's been there and kind of done that. I was going to ask you, where have you been? Where were you on the career that you do now with animation and cartoons and all that when you find this information? Had you already made that choice to go in that direction, or
Yeah.
it helped you to go in that direction?
So actually, there was so I went to undergraduate school at CSU Monterey Bay, and they had an early application day where you basically go to campus and like submit your application to be a student there, and they tell you like later that afternoon if you got in. And I was there with like a mask on because my counts were too low and like filling out forms and stuff. But I was like going through chemo while I was on campus, like, and I had to like distance from people. Now it seems like the norm, but I was like social distancing and like even and like washing my hands a lot because my counts were low because like the cycle I was in chemo. But I already knew I wanted to do the animation stuff before I got sick. It was just um, helped me So I didn't want to let that disrupt me. I just wanted to keep moving forward with that. And I realized once I was in school, just the combination of my desire to help other people and animation and storytelling could be a way for me to apply a tool to use to help me make that impact I want to have on the world. And actually, speaking of, you mentioned guiding people who have been there before. I'm actually uh, co-founder of a social and support group for young professionals dealing with brain tumors called Brainiacs of SF Bay. We're on Facebook, so if you want to join, check that out. And we're basically helping people that are like starting careers, starting families, and again, boom, out of nowhere, brain tumor diagnosis, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" We basically connect them with someone who's been through the exact same thing or something similar, who can really empathize with what they're going through and help guide them through treatment, and be someone who can show them the way through this difficult time. Yeah, it's gonna be rough for a few months, but there is life after cancer, and they can still start a career, start a family, and it's not
Give me the name of that one more time.
called Brainiacs of SF Bay.
Brainiacs of SF Bay. Okay,
Yep.
cool. So my friend here is a very funny dude, as you could tell just from the opening. And so when you said that when you had a joke in your animation that everybody laughed at, that you said it was, you were in a giant room and you had a joke in your animation and everybody laughed, and that's the moment that you knew. I want to know what the joke was.
I think it was mainly I don't remember the exact joke. I just remember the feeling of when everyone laughed, just having like that adrenaline rush. It was like, oh my gosh, I don't remember what the joke was. It was
Okay, well, let me ask this then, because that's interesting. So Stephen and I are both live performers. We're both used to getting immediate feedback from what we say. And you're right. When you make somebody laugh, it is like some sort of a drug addiction. Oh, yeah. It's the greatest feeling in the world. So I want to know what that's like. If you're creating these animations, you probably don't normally get that immediate feedback, but you got it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's most of what my company makes is put online on people's websites, so they use it in their marketing, whatever. And usually I get that sort of rush when I see the client enjoy the animation, when they go, "Oh my gosh, this is great, we love it," and that's kind of get that little taste of it. But yeah, it's a rare treat to have like a screening where people actually see you see people's reactions live. But I think when I still I'm showing it to people individually and they go, "Oh my gosh, that was so cool," I still get a little taste of that. It's obviously not the fix you really are looking for, but it's enough of the hit of that adrenaline and like the endorphin buzz that still keeps my hands from shaking. I don't know what the addiction metaphor is as we're going on, but I get enough of that kind of response in my work, that just dealing with happy clients and stuff, that it's one of the things I really enjoy, is seeing people's responses to the work my company makes.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to hear more about that in a second, but I want to double back just for a second. No, because we're going to move forward. I want to hear more about your company and the type of work that you do and stuff. But you said something that I just wanted to just see if you'll just give me a little bit more on, because one of the things you said was, when you got the diagnosis, you basically realized, or maybe somebody said to you, or whatever it was, you said, it's going to suck for a few months. And so what I have found when you find yourself in a difficult situation, maybe it's a situation that you have never expected to be in, and you understand that there is no way around it. There's not an out. You basically just have to go through it. What the times that has happened in my life, what I have found is you just find, it's like you just put your nose down and you say, okay, let's power through no matter what. And you just kind of, as they say in the military, you embrace the suck.
Oh yeah, totally.
So, Is that what you found when you get this diagnosis? You say it's just going to suck for a few months. Is there anything specific that you learned about that sort of period of time of just sucking it up and going through it?
It makes it a lot easier to go through those times when there's people around you that are with you and helping you through it. Um, I mean, I had like people flew in for like family members and people I hadn't seen for years, like were flying into see me in the hospital or sending gifts, and my friends uh like would come and like they called it kidnapping me. They kind of show up at my house when my accounts were high enough, and this basically take me out to go do something and make sure I was not just kind of alone in my house all the time. And I had like my parents, especially my mom, was uh, like super like um, advocating for me with doctors, making sure I got everything I needed. So I like besides just tanking the chemo and radiation and all the physical stuff. Um, like I had so many other people that were kind of handling the other logistics and stuff. So it really made it easier for me to get through it than if I was trying to do it all by myself. And so I think that I feel very fortunate. I'm still very close with a lot of people, like my friends from high school that that got me helped me get through that. I'm still really close with them. We talk regularly, and just I'm very close to my family. And I think having that support network makes getting through the the embracing the suck time easier. And also just think having an optimistic mindset, obviously not ignoring the fact that things are rough and bad, but just knowing that they are going to get better once you get through this rough period, and that it is a temporary thing, and that and like celebrating, like I said, little victories and things you can do to stay like I would I watched a lot of the Daily Show with Jon Stewart when I was going through chemo with my dad. And actually was after I was done with treatment and stuff, it was actually during the third week of chemo. I was in the hospital and a social worker poked her head and was like, "Hey, have you heard of Make-A-Wish?" And I was like, "What?" Like, what if you could have like one thing in the world, what would you have? Like any wish you want. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she basically said I qualified for Make-A-Wish. So I got to part of my wish was to go see a taping of the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and I got to sit on the couch and like meet him out in the green room after the episode and thank him for helping me laugh and not feel like as much like a blah situation when I was going through chemo. And so it was things like that to keep my spirits up and staying optimistic. And um, all the support I got really made the rough period manageable. Um, and it's I think the lesson is that like for me like personally just having the right mindset is key because that's all you really can control when that stuff like that happens that are so much out of your control. And then um, asking for help and having a good support network is key. And if people are looking for someone to support them, I'm sure there's if they don't have family and friends around them, there's organizations that are made to help people that so they don't have to go through like driving yourself to treatment appointments, or they'll buy food, bring you food and stuff and meals so that um, the people going through the disease themselves can just focus on getting better and aren't burdened with all the extra kind of daily uh, responsibilities of life. And so I think having that sort of support network is absolutely key for traversing the sucky periods.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's interesting. I've heard a lot of people talk about different paths to success, and there are a whole lot of people that talk about the power of a team. Having a team of people that we're not really designed as humans to go through life completely alone. And
Oh
so
no.
the fact that you shared the fact of how powerful a team can be, even if it's sort of an informal team, because it sounded like all these people rallied around you. It wasn't like a formally, created team, but it was your team. And I love the optimism, is that, your thoughts on optimism. I do want to know, I want to know this, because I've obviously never, people don't know who I am like people know who Jon Stewart is. And so I've never had that level of success, but I do know what it's like when somebody comes up to me after a show or after a talk and they share with me, and Stephen knows this very well because I've seen it happen to him many times, where we tell our stories and we connect with people, and they come up to us afterwards and they're thankful, and they tell us a little bit about them and why what we did was important to them. How did Jon Stewart react when you thanked him for just being something that you could look forward to. Did he have any specific type of reaction?
It was very, he said, "You're welcome." And he thought it was really cool that we had this sort of impact, but it wasn't he's a very humble person, and he was a very muted response. And I think it wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cool." It was just kind of "That's awesome." And I got to shake his hand, and it was very, you know, I can't think of the right word for it, but like, the main thing I remember from that meeting, besides just thanking him and how awesome it was he wanted to give my sister a hug because she was the only person in my family shorter than he was. So
comedians will always be funny, right?
yeah, he basically he basically said he was happy to have helped, and it was uh, something that, I mean, he obviously didn't really know he was doing it at the time, but he thought it was cool that it was his show had that sort of effect on me, and um, it was just cool to
Yeah, it's great.
get to thank him and let him know that he made an impact on me at that time. It was obviously it's a bigger deal for me than it probably was for him, but just I think it's cool that I got a chance to say thank you and show gratitude, because I think that's also a big part of getting through kind of getting help from people is making sure that they're aware of how grateful you are for their support, and being genuine about and aware of how much people are helping you, because it's always frustrating when you see someone who thinks they've done it all themselves, because they're just kind of not aware of how much
Right,
support they've received from people over the years.
right.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm even thinking this way, but I'm also thinking, there's a lot of people, and we're talking our shows about overcoming adversity and keep going on, and Carl has done that amazing. My wife has kidney cancer, and she went through it, and looking at Carl, if you looked at you, you don't go, wow, that guy had a brain tumor, or yeah, that guy's really struggling with things. Whereas I'm just really talking, I guess, to the people out there that might go, yeah, well, mine's different. Maybe they got the bad brain cancer, and the one, but like Jason has Tourette syndrome, and I'm sure he was told when he was young, yeah, you may grow out of it. Well, he never has, and he still has Tourette syndrome. I have a bad speech impediment. I was bitten by a dog, and I don't care what I do, I'm always going to talk funny, and so it's just so. And I guess all I'm saying is, for those anybody listening, that sometimes the hard times are more masked in other people than others. Some people are disability. It's not like, golly, I'd rather talk funny than have a brain tumor or something. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying being equal, but I'm just trying to say there are different types. Some people have to deal with things a whole lot different than other people.
Yep.
But this is not what this show's about. The show is about what you do and what Carl did to overcome this news as a teenager, and to continue to work. He's doing what he wants to do. He's making a living at the thing that he found, and good. And both me and Jason had the same experience as you. Ours is really a lot alike. Mine was I was forced to be in a play in high school, but I was given a funny part, and I wouldn't even talk because I had really bad speech problems. I stuttered really bad, and because of nerves, but because of this funny part, everybody laughed. And it was the same moment you had hearing that. But I mean, I just heard what I can be funny, and I didn't really realize that. But either at that time did I realize that was going to be my path. But I just knew that I really just loved that. And Jason had some of the same experience in a play, though. So I think that everybody out there listening, sometimes there will be a time and moment and something that happens in someone's life that you can go, all right. We look at unfortunately, we have to live our life now to the future, but we can understand it so much easier looking from the future back. When we look back at our life, we can go, wow, this is why this happened, this happened, this happened. This is why I went through all this stuff to get me to where I am today. And that's what Carl's story is really about. I mean, our guidance is just what he's doing, and we're going to talk about his business and just exactly what he's doing. But looking back, it's a great story. But I'm sure going forward in the beginning, some of that time, it was a lot tougher.
Yeah, when you're going through it, it doesn't feel like a great story.
Yeah.
It just
No,
feels,
it's not fun to go. That's one thing I wouldn't want to go through it again. I wouldn't wish it on anyone
Yeah.
else, but I can't imagine not having gone through it because of how much of an impact it's had on me and what I'm doing with my life now and how much better a person I am because of I went through it. But it's not something I want to like, hey, let's relive those six
yeah.
months. That sounds like a whole bunch of fun. Like, no, let's not.
It makes you a strong person. I wish I had brain cancer.
Yeah.
No.
So, all right. So I want to hear. So you're an animator. This is, I don't know. Much like people don't meet magicians very often, I don't meet animators very often. So you have a passion for it. You turned it into your business, which always fascinates me. How people are able to make something that the majority of people would never be able to make any money off of. How you've been able to do that. Tell us about tell us about your business. We're interested.
Yeah, sure. So when companies are looking to explain complex concepts, answer common questions, increase revenue, or strengthen their brand presence online, they come to us and we help them by creating high quality custom animated content. A lot of people think that they can explain things just by throwing a bunch of information at their audience, when the key is actually to tell a story that puts all that information into context and a structure. And so we're often working as like a fractional animation department for marketing, branding, and PR companies, helping tech, biotech, health and wellness, and professional services companies connect with the people that are most important to them. Um, and so we make stuff that helps, like explaining. Like we just finished an animation last week for a well-funded startup, help creating the new next generation lithium-ion batteries. We've made content for a wealth manager explaining what IRAs and bonds are to her clients. Made an animation for a nonprofit to explain the importance of air standpipe systems in high-rise buildings that allow firefighters to refill their air tanks on every third floor. Um, Talking with some leadership coach about doing some animations to explain how he helps leaders make better decisions under crisis situations and he has a neuroscience background. So all sorts of variety of topics that oftentimes people have trouble understanding if you just kind of told them verbally or if they're reading something. But by adding visuals and the story, help people make the ideas stick and have a little more concrete concepts they can wrap or kind of attach the abstract concept to the visuals, make it stick better in their heads. We're able to help companies and organizations really connect with the right people they're trying to communicate with. And also, by adding the story, there's an emotional element to it, which really helps because as much as we like to think of ourselves as thinking beings that occasionally feel, we're very much feeling beings that occasionally think.
That's me.
More some than others. And so when it comes to trying to convince people or influence behavior, which is what marketing is all about, is really want to explain to people that show people that you understand where they're coming from, what they're struggling with, how they're feeling, establish some trust there, show that you're similar to them, you're like them, you share their values and their goals, and show them how they're going to feel when they're working with you, and show them how they're going to feel once they get the results of what you're offering. And that sort of basic structure is a common kind of framework we use to help tell people stories and get them connected to the people they really want to connect with. Because people really don't. Actually, made an animation about this over the holiday break because it applies not just animation, but people don't buy things because of what they are. They buy things because the result they get from the thing or the service. So, like, you don't buy food, you buy like nutrition and flavor. You don't buy like a house, you buy a place to live and to keep your things and like a haven. And you don't buy an animation, you buy increased revenue or explaining complex concepts or saving time. There's results people are really getting from a product or service. And so where we're really offering what we're really selling is basically the results they're getting from the animation. Animation is just a tool to tell the stories that gets people the results they want. And so I love that about it because I I'm not just selling like a thing that like people are going to buy and then never use again. I'm helping people achieve their goals. I'm using animation and storytelling, which I'm super passionate about, to help improve people's businesses and their lives. And I love working with companies like the ones I listed, or trying to help other people with like financial planning, or help people be safer in buildings, or improve the efficiency of like kind of green energy with these batteries. So helping those companies make a difference in the world is really how I'm able to like kind of live my values, and make a difference in the world with my company, based on the kind of that inspiration I got from going through the brain tumor experience and realizing how important it is to support others, and try and do as much as I can to make the world a better place.
Well, I'm not giving you any hints and anything, but you think about getting into politics. Okay? I think the last president and the now president both could use your help. But just to be able to get away some of their ideas. But the bottom line of all this is too, with the animation, I think, is, and because of, I mean, because it's, you add fun into there, and it makes these things fun to watch. I know right now, the internet, I saw where they're upset with people writing jokes about taking the vaccine and stuff. And I've taken my first shot, not this guy, but I have. And but I don't see a problem with jokes about it. I think it's hilarious, and I think because that's who Americans are. That's who we are. We laugh at things. We're going to make jokes. Even 9/11. I mean, we took off for 9/11, but it really wasn't. We wasn't getting back to normal again until the comedians and the late night shows and people were able to start joking about it, and they blame humor. So I mean, I'm a big believer in adding fun and putting fun and being able to laugh at yourself or laugh at what's going on sometimes. I think, I mean, that's it. And that's what you do. I mean, I talk funny. I'm going to laugh and make fun. The first couple minutes of my act is making fun of my speech and letting everybody know I'm going to spit on you. And you're going to go, and I do really talk this way. I'm not using a special voice or anything. And we did the same thing with Jason with his Tourette's. When he's performing a whole lot, doing the same repetitive show, his Tourette's really tends to show up. And, you know, we had to go, we got to address it and make fun of it, to let everybody know you're okay with it. And I've overcame this, and let's go on. Let's move on.
Yeah, and animation is naturally, I think anybody who sees animation, because of the way that, you know, you grow up watching animation, it makes you feel, it has an automatic good feel to it. Just like there's just an immediate like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah. And if you want to yell at me in a cartoon, I can take it.
Yeah, it is a good way, like you mentioned, adding the humor and an entertainment aspect to learning about something that otherwise would be really dry and boring to like read about is one really good strength of animation. And also, yeah, making the tough subjects more palatable and like and easier for people to address is what really powerful with animation, because there is that stylized look that makes it seem not quite as real or imposing. So yeah, like I've made some animations a couple years ago now for a company that explains clinical trials to potential participants, and so explaining like what's going on with the procedures and stuff is really good use of animation, because it helps people learn without being too like triggered by the actual subject matter. And yeah, making the animation has a variety of visual styles and a variety of emotions you can evoke really easily, and I think it's a great way to address subjects that might otherwise be hard to talk about, but getting them out in the open and talking about difficult subjects like you said, like 9/11, or just other hot button issues that are a lot of times are people avoid discussing or avoid talking about because they're difficult.
Right.
Just makes them more. It kind of feeds that like a feedback loop of unwillingness to talk about it. It makes it worse. So just being able to get it out in the open, have it people discuss it openly, really is helpful for making some of those issues less impactful. So I think having animation as a way to spark that conversation and bring up some of these topics that are difficult is another great benefit of the medium.
Right. And I like how he did that without moving his lips.
You froze there for a second. We were just looking at you.
Sorry.
No, it's great. It's great.
No,
So
I was going to say for me, sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead.
I'll forget this if I don't. I'm older than Jason. I have to get it out.
I have to write everything down.
And but I mean, I have to be honest. Most of the stuff I know about the politics and how a bill becomes law is because of that little cartoon we watched when we were little about the bill goes over to the. I mean, that's where all my knowledge. What do you know this? It's Constitution. No, that little guy, the little cartoon guy told me when I was little.
Yep.
And I've never forgotten it.
So if people are interested in learning more about what you do, finding out how they can work with you, or if there's an opportunity there, do you have a website, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they can go to squashandstretch.net and check us out there, or you can find me on LinkedIn, KarlPontau on LinkedIn, and just find me at Karl Pontau, and be happy to chat and learn more about what people want to know about animation and how we can help them out.
That's awesome.
We'll be able to put that on there.
Yeah, we'll totally drop this in here so that people can see that, and that will also be in the show notes, so the folks that are watching on the website can come and visit you. Your company is called Squash and Stretch Productions, Custom Animations. I think that is awesome. So there's actually, I wish I had thought about this. There's actually one or two magic tricks that use animations, and I'm totally mad about the fact that we didn't think that we could. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea where it is. So, but do you like magic? Because so in a future episode we will bring your name up again and we will do a trick using animation. So you're gonna get double the exposure here.
Sounds good. Make sure to send me the link to it so I can watch it.
Oh, totally, dude, because this show is about inspiration and amazement, and because we're magicians, we like to do magic for the amazement part. You want to see something cool?
Yeah, last couple minutes, let's see it.
Jason's not performing, I am, so I don't know about how cool.
All right, so I'm going to go man the camera, and let's make sure. How's this camera? Does that look good to you, Stephen?
I'm fine.
All right, cool.
All right, Karl. There's a really famous trick about what's called the invisible deck, and this is my little card case for an invisible deck. But magicians would, but unfortunately, I left the cards out one day. I've never found them, so I can't do the trick. So this is just another way of doing a trick, kind of like that. It's a very interesting trick. I have a deck of cards right here, and just for the audience, everybody trusts you. You didn't know this was happening. Nothing's set up. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to think of a playing card, and I'm going to let you know there's a lot of cards that you could. I mean, there's 52 different cards, but I don't want you to come back later and go, oh golly, I bet everybody picks the Ace of Spades, or or that one card. So try to pick a card you might not think everybody picked, but if you want to, you can pick a card that you think everybody picked. I don't care.
I got the card in my mind right here.
Okay, you got it?
Yep.
All right, I want you now to think of another one. Forget that one. Go to a different one.
All right, got it.
Yeah, because everybody's going to say, I know what happened. When he was talking, he talked him into picking that first one. But now you're thinking of the second one.
Yep, thinking of the second one.
I'm going to do this, but I'm going to give you permission to go back to the first one if you want to.
Okay.
So you can go to either one, but you now can say, not only did I have 52, I narrowed it down to 2, and then I got to pick. So now between those two, you decided on one card. Is that correct?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, and I'm just telling somebody to quit calling me. I'm not setting anything up. The cards are still there. Okay. Karl, for the first time, what was the card that you actually just thought of?
The first one I picked?
Either one, first or second. You got it.
First one I picked was the Jack of Spades.
Okay. You sure?
Yep.
And we're going to go with that one instead of the other one. Here I have a deck of cards, and it's kind of hard to see that we're trying to get the writing of this.
Yep.
So you can see it. But over in here, there should be one card turned upside down. I don't know if you can see it. The Jack of Spades.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, well, it is pretty cool. The cool part about it, what makes it really interesting, is that it's the only card in the deck. These cards are all blank, except for the jack of spades.
Wow.
The rest of the cards are not here. This is my version of the invisible. It's just kind of like the invisible cards with the jack. It only worked with the jack of spades, so I'm really glad you didn't go back to that other trick. This would have been a dumb trick.
It would have been a nightmare. You can cut it out. It's recording. Just cut it out.
Yeah, okay. Nobody knows. This is our take 51, and he finally got to the jack of spades.
Yeah.
It's about time he came around with it.
Well, Karl, thank you for your time today.
Karl.
It's been a
This is
pleasure
great. Good to meet you.
to hear your story and for you to share this with our listeners. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Take care of yourself.
Back off.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Do the Impossible with Jason and Stephen. Please subscribe for future episodes. Our home on the internet is jasonmichaelsmagic.com/podcast. That's jasonmichaelsmagic.com/podcast. To contact us, please visit the website and fill out the form. Now go out and do the impossible in your world.